Hello there, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to 2 Samuel, chapter number 14. And we see, as we left yesterday, Absalom, who was David's son, killed his half-brother Amnon, and Absalom fled. He went to Geshur, and here we are a few years later, and we see the king is still having he's having a fight within himself. Is King David is, and the fight is, that's my son over there. The people don't want me to pardon him, but that's my son over there. That's my son, and I would love to be in his presence again because David loved him, but that's his son. And the people were just like, no, he's a murderer. So David had this issue with him. This turmoil, this fight going on within him. And the players in this chapter here we see is Joab again, and we see Absalom. We see a wise woman who is from a place called Tekoa, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is a decent distance to the south of Jerusalem, where they are. Decent distance, and it's a distance away that as Joab convinces this wise woman to come and to come before the king and use this parable on the king, it's a distance enough that the king can't quickly investigate her claims or anything like that, and she can't be recognized and stuff like that. And so we have Joab, we have Absalom, we have the wise woman from Tekoa, and we have the king. And so Joab convinces this woman to go before the king and give this parable. And this parable is designed to help the king with this inner turmoil that he has between doing what the people, being politically correct, or doing what he wants to do as a father, and that's be in the presence of his son again, and that's just allow his son to be in the same area again. So we have this little story, and this wise woman comes up, and she perfectly runs this parable and helps the king to realize that he ought to pardon him. He ought to bring him back, and so he does. And so he brings him back, but he says, I don't want to see him. Do not let his face come before me. And he does that, and he has Absalom comes back to his house, and he's able to be around his family and stuff like that. He has 4 children, 3 sons, 1 daughter, and actually named the daughter Tamar again, probably after his sister. And it says that she also was a beautiful woman. That's in verse 27. So I'm assuming that maybe he is trying to restore his sister's name by having that daughter named after her. But after he was there 2 years, he got fed up with it. He says, I can't come before the king. And so he devised a plan and carried it out to get before the king. And, and he says, now therefore, and we're looking at this is the end of verse 32. So now therefore, let me see the king's face. But if there is iniquity in me, let him execute me. 33 says, so Joab went to the king and told him. And when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king. Then the king kissed Absalom. So David went ahead and he gave full pardon to his son Absalom, which is what he really wanted to do after all these years. And it took a faithful servant, Joab, in his army, in his military, faithful and wise servant, to devise this plan to get the king, and to get the king to pardon Absalom and bring him back into his sight. And it's we need people like that in our lives that can look at us and understand what's going on, look at us and understand what really the matter of the heart is, and can help us get through these difficult areas. We all need, and I say this often, we all need spiritual fathers. We need to be spiritual brothers, and we need spiritual sons. Okay, we need those outlets of going to and gaining advice, and we need those other outlets of sharing with brothers, and we need to be sharing what we are learning to our spiritual sons. So we need to continue to do that, and you see here how the wisdom of another can really help us. And David Unfortunately, Absalom as we start reading forward, Absalom turns out, he's got some evil in him. But it's those wise people to help us with the matters of our heart. And that's what we see here in Joab, is that he was wise, and he helped the king with this turmoil that was just such tearing him up inside. I'm sure it was. It would tear me up, if I couldn't see my son, or I had the decision to convict him to death, and he did something deserving of that. It would tear me up. So I can only imagine what David had gone through, and I'm glad that Joab was there. And you know what? I'm glad for some of the people I have in my life, definitely. And it's my prayer that you have some of those people in your lives. And if you're reading this, and of course you're a male, and you ever want to talk, I'm available. And if you're a female, you need to, that's just not proper for you and I to be talking. But find another woman to talk with. But hope everybody has a super day. I love you all, and yeah, find somebody to mentor. Ciao.